find that the more that I learn about something and the more I can objectively understand it, even though it might not directly affect my hair pulling and what my hair looks like, it's something that helps my overall mental health. And the state of my brain is, frankly, more important than how my hair looks. So let's get started. Most of the time when you're Googling trichotillomania, the first thing you're gonna look at is webmd. You know, it's that website that tells you, you know, if you have a headache, you have like skull cancer. I think the pros of using webmd is that it's quite clear and it's very straightforward. They don't really put in any like additional fluff or any like weird misleading information as of the last time I checked the site. But on the contrary, I'd say WebMD is pretty impersonal. You kind of feel like, you know, well, you feel like you're diagnosing an illness, which you are, but you don't always want to feel like that, right? You kind of want to feel like, you know, you've got someone to lean on, you have someone who understands what you're going through. WebMD isn't that, but WebMD is definitely something that if you want to explain to your doctor what trichotillomania is, you can kind of speak their language in a way. If you need to explain to your therapist or to a dermatologist, let's say you have like dermatillomania and you pick at your skin and you don't really have the vocabulary and the vernacular to explain these things to like health professionals, WebMD could be a really great resource to help you formulate those thoughts and articulate what you want to explain instead of just explaining trick like, oh, I just like pull out my hair when I get nervous. WebMD can give you the vocabulary to explain things to the health professionals around you, and maybe to people that, you know, you just want to give them like the most clear-cut, straight-up answer. WebMD is a pretty good place to start. The second resource on this list is tumblr.com. Tumblr is a blogging site that was pretty popular from the years like 2011 to 2016, I want to say. That's kind of when I used it the most. I haven't used it in years, but Tumblr is where I first discovered what trichotillomania is. So I kind of like give Tumblr the gold star for having that, at least. So somehow I stumbled upon the trichotillomania tag and like mental health, and that's kind of what put me on the rabbit hole to learn more about trichotillomania in the future. So since I haven't used Tumblr in a while, I went back on to check the trick tag and like trichotillomania tag. So that's one good thing, is that Tumblr is quite organized when people tag their posts correctly. You can either look up like hashtag trick, hashtag TW trick, so trigger warning trick, trichotillomania, and you're gonna see a lot of posts by a lot of people. So I'd say like the volume of content is there. Keep in mind that Tumblr is a blogging site, so you're gonna see mostly personal anecdotes, and I'd say the majority is kind of in the style of venting, word vomit, a lot of like kind of rage posting. If you are on Tumblr, I highly encourage that you follow blogs that talk about trick and body focused repetitive behaviors in like a positive manner. Not that you have to sugarcoat it, but I fell into the trap of constantly feeling negative about my hair, constantly feeling like trick was like a burden on my shoulders, that I was suffering from it. And I kind of see that it happened because I was surrounded by all these negative posts on Tumblr where people were pretty much raging on the fact that they have trick and it's not going away and there's nothing they can do, and you feel really hopeless and frustrated. So I'd say be quite mindful of who you follow and what you look at, and be mindful of your state of mind when you're going into these research rabbit holes. You know, you're not always going to be in the mood to read about other people's like pull-free streaks breaking, looking at photos of people's like bald spots. There's so many things. You have to be like in the right mindset to be researching this stuff. And if you don't take care of yourself, like, who will, right? So it's great for having a large volume of content, but keep in mind it's a blogging site, could be quite negative, and be critical of what you're reading. Next on the list is Facebook groups. Yeah, Facebook groups have been something that has been popping up in a lot of mental health communities and mental health spaces on the internet, and it's a really good way to connect with people semi-privately. Like, you don't have to talk about your mental health like on your news feed for like Aunt Barbara to see, and for like your grandma to like and leave a like sad emoji on. But you can join these Facebook groups and then connect with people you know, in the group where no one else can really see that you're part of it, and just talk to other people who understand what you're going through. I like Facebook groups because they're usually very active. You have a lot of people posting and like sharing pictures and sharing stories and like sharing products that help them, like sharing tips and stuff. So I'd say it's a pretty active community and you can get a lot out of it. On the con side, I would say there's a lot of how you say, the pyramid schemes. You have to be mindful of pyramid schemes on Facebook groups the most. Out of all the other resources I talk about, guys, maybe exception to Instagram, which is owned by Facebook anyway, so it doesn't matter. But guys, pyramid schemes are real. People are out there, like, I don't want to say they're scamming you, but I'd say it's quite misleading to tell someone that pulls out their own hair, like, and suffers from mental illness, that a shampoo will fix that. On my notes, I wrote no proven info and treatments because a lot of people will talk about their medication, different products they use, yeah, different treatments that they've tried, and then like the essential oil shampoo gang, like, we love them. So take everything with a grain of salt. You're gonna hear that a lot in this video, but it's so true. You have to be critical of what you're consuming on the internet. The internet's fun and the internet's amazing, but if you're not thinking for yourself, these people are going to think for you and then mislead you into doing what? I don't know. Spending your money in a way that's kind of irresponsible, but you have to think for yourself and be critical of what you see. Oh, one more thing about Facebook groups. Because they post very often and there is a large number of posts, I highly recommend that you actually mute these groups from your timeline. So if you're like a Facebook user, and maybe you already know how to do this, but if you go onto Facebook and you see your timeline and you know you're part of these like hair loss, trichotillomania groups, and you don't mute the groups, you're basically going to see the post groups on your feed like 24/7. And like I kind of mentioned in the past section, if you are not in the, you know, stable state of mind to be taking in this information, it might not be very beneficial to you. It might actually be detrimental for you, actually. So, you know, you have to keep control of your environment. Like, you're responsible for your experience on these social media platforms. So I would highly suggest muting the groups so you don't see it like automatically on your timeline, and when you feel ready, just walk on over to the Facebook group and be like, what's up guys, what I miss? And then you can just scroll and like look at the shenanigans everyone's been getting into. But if you're not in the mood, at least your timeline is just like people getting married and people having babies, and you can just like look at that and not think about the hair stuff. Next up is my personal favorite, Instagram, owned by Facebook. Instagram is great. It's got a lot of personable people, and a lot of people are sharing their hair loss journeys and their trick journeys and all that stuff. Since each person runs their own page, you actually have access to a lot of people to ask questions and to talk to and just converse with about hair loss. So Instagram is great for being personable and like meeting real people, but also, you guys know, like when you go on Instagram, you just kind of like hate yourself like a tiny bit more. That can happen, so just be aware of that. Another great spot to learn about trichotillomania and BFRBs is actually Reddit, right? Who uses Reddit? If you use Reddit, can you let me know? I need to use it more because I love like going into Reddit rabbit holes. But for the purpose of this video, there's a subreddit about trichotillomania and I believe dermatillomania, so that's compulsive skin picking, and there's, I believe, a subreddit for BFRBs in general. I'm gonna link everything that I mentioned down below. So you just go on like a clicking frenzy down there and you will probably learn something new. I love Reddit because there are really well researched and well thought out posts. I find that one of the problems with Facebook and Instagram and Tumblr is that it's a very instantaneous response. People post kind of impulsively, and I say that in like the most regular way possible. When you're feeling something, you make the post and then you post it. Like that's kind of that's the formula of other social media sites. Reddit, on the other hand, is definitely a lot more long form, like thought out and potentially researched. You're gonna find a lot of really long, in-depth posts, which I really like because these are people that are putting as much detail of their experience as they can, and in turn, as like the reader, that's very helpful. Did I say Instagram was my favorite? I actually meant this one's my favorite. Peer support meetings. Guys, peer support meetings. So there are cons of peer support meetings. First of all, and I know you're probably rolling your eyes, you're like, there are no peer support meetings in my area. Correct, there usually aren't. They're very inaccessible and can be quite challenging for people to schedule to go to. I feel you, I get you. We'll get there, hold on. Inaccessible, right? That's not great. They can be infrequent, like once a month, quarterly, semi-quarterly, biannual, like all these terms don't really make any sense, but the point is, you are living with Trich every day, and you're telling me that seeing some people once a month can be helpful. And I actually am. Due to COVID-19, whoop, whoop, most support groups have gone online now. The one I attend in Toronto is organized by the Canadian BFRB Support Network, CBSN, website, down there. Their support meeting has gone online, and instead of every month, they have a meeting every 2 weeks now. So that's a 100% increase of support meetings, guys. It's online, so it's accessible to anybody in the world, and CBSN hosts this support meeting for all types of BFRBs, so you don't have to just have like hair pulling or skin picking. If you're anything under the BFRB umbrella, or if you know someone with a BFRB, heyo, attend the meeting, ask some questions from real people with BFRBs, go with a friend in solidarity with them. When I started attending peer support meetings around high school, I would attend really infrequently. I would go like 3 times a year, and like randomly I would stop for a whole year. I would go like 6 months in a row. I was just not consistent with it at all. But the main takeaway that I had from attending in-person, real human support meetings was that I got to meet other people living with Trich or a BFRB or just mental illness. So I got to meet real people living with this and see that they are more than their mental illness. Like, we don't just talk about mental health, you know. You could talk to these people about like your shitty roommates or your shitty landlord or how much you hate your boss, and there are things that these people talk about, you know. We connect on the mental illness level, but then you kind of see for yourself, you see like the real tangible proof that, oh wait a second, like you can be like a real functioning adult with a mental illness. And attending these meetings has been quite monumental in my growth. Not that like going to this meeting will fix all your problems, but I find that the shift in perspective has helped me a lot throughout the years. So I've been attending meetings for a few years, and now that it's online and I don't have to leave my house or change out of my pajamas, I'd say it's even better. So I'll put the dates for the next online support meeting if that's something you're interested in, and I'll also link the CBSN pages so you can just follow them and they'll announce whenever there are meetings to come. Like I mentioned, peer support meetings is like my favorite form of trichotillomania resourcing and support. So if you have any questions about it or you're hesitant about attending one, I totally feel you. Just comment it down below, or you can message me on Instagram and let's talk about it. I want to like make sure this is out there because it's really hard for people to find out about them, and then double hard for people to attend them, but now they're online, so I feel like we're in a good spot. Okay, finally, I am covered in sweat and ready to talk about this last resource. And I'd say last resource because it's the resource I haven't used, and it's the resource that I haven't heard that much success with, to be honest, but I wanted to put it on here so that people are aware that this is an option that you can pursue if you're seeking that, like, I don't know what this is, but you're seeking like more support. And I think that's something to have an open mind for. Therapy. The good old shrink on a couch. Well, actually, you're on the couch, the shrink is on the chair. But therapy, like real life, in person, very expensive, unless covered by health insurance, therapy. I haven't gone to a therapist, especially for my hair pulling specifically. So this section is kind of based off of experiences and anecdotes I've read from other people, and will hopefully contextualize the therapist visit if this is something you're looking to pursue. One of the pros of having a good therapist is that you have a professional, objective viewpoint of what is happening, and you have access to someone who is familiar with body-focused repetitive behaviors, perhaps cognitive behavioral therapy, which is one of the most common forms of treatment for people living with BFRBs. That could be really, really great. And then you have the therapist network of specialists that you can consult as well. I'd say even if you don't get a therapist specifically for your BFRB, having a therapist for your general mental health could be something that benefits you as well. If I'm worried about these things, that's going to indirectly affect my hair and my pulling. So maybe finding a therapist is something that can indirectly help with the trichotillomania, even if you're not like directly taking it on. But a common challenge a lot of people experience when they find a therapist or a doctor or a dermatologist and want to talk about trich, a pretty common problem that people have is that they end up teaching the professional more about trich than the other way around. So normally you go to your doctor and you're like, hey man, I pull out my hair, like, what's going on? And the doctor will tell you, oh, this sounds like a case of trichotillomania. Here's all the treatments and symptoms and things you can do to relieve your stuff. And that's normally what happens. But trichotillomania and BFRBs isn't something so commonly practiced, or as commonly practiced as I would like. So an experience I hear a lot about is that the patient ends up being the teacher, and it's like, I don't pay someone hundreds of dollars an hour to educate them. You know, you want to find someone that works for you. Try to find a professional through a recommendation, someone else that has experienced a BFRB maybe in your area and has worked with a therapist, and that therapist is like, it's cool with them, therefore they can be cool with you, right? Lessons. Take all the information I share and that you find with a grain of salt. You need to be critical of what you're learning. 2, don't overwhelm yourself. This video is probably very overwhelming for you, so you can like save it. There's like a save to playlist. You can just throw me in a playlist, like go for it, it's fine. I don't take that personally. Throw me in a playlist, keep these links down there bookmarked. I'm basically making other people's information accessible. This isn't like new information, but this is just stuff that I've been collecting in my little like hoard of knowledge in my brain for so many years. Save this for later when you are feeling good and excited to learn about your mental health and the state of your mental being. 3rd lesson is to cross-reference information if you can, especially when it comes to like treatments and products and medicine. If they're recommending a hair oil that makes your hair grow super fast, don't just base it off that one review. Look for it on YouTube, look for it on Instagram, try to find reviews where people share their experiences. And finally, the last lesson is to please be realistic with your goals. Researching trich isn't going to stop your pulling. I thought it would, and it didn't, and it hasn't. But everything affects everybody differently, which is so annoying for me to say, because I'm basically saying like anything can happen, YOLO. But it's true. Anything can happen, YOLO. And if you're realistic with your goals, you won't feel that like earth-shattering disappointment that haunts you in the middle of the night. So if there are any other resources that I missed that you think are incredibly helpful and very awesome, please comment it down below. If there's one on the list that you especially like and you want to share your experience with it, again, please comment it down below. This is basically like information central. Add to my hoard. I'll be so happy if you do. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Come say hi on Instagram, you know, whenever you want, and I will see you in the next one. Have a really good day. Bye.